We are officially in Super Bowl week as we continue our position comparisons for this Super Bowl matchup. I'm Adam Wright. You're listening to the Fumblerooski podcast.
Here's Edelman broken up, and the pass is no sign yet. Edelman comes down with a football. They're saying it's a catch. This is caught. Diggs! Sideline! Touchdown! Unbelievable! Swings it way down the field to Watkins. Sammy Watkins for the touchdown.
Welcome to the Fumblerooski podcast by Power 88 and Secret Weapon Consulting. I'm Adam Wright with Chris Costich and CJ Medeiros. Welcome to Super Bowl week, guys. We are on to our second half of our team comparisons, going on the offensive side of the ball with the positions. And I also wanted to touch on this one topic, which is Patrick Mahomes' legacy. This is being talked about a lot during Super Bowl week and the week prior because this is Patrick Mahomes has only been in the league for 6 years. He's been in the conference championship in as many seasons. And he's also been to the Super Bowl in 4 of those. So this guy has had some pretty good success. And so I just wanted to weigh out these scenarios on how this would affect his legacy. If he wins, if he loses. I wanted to start off, guys, with Patrick Mahomes. So the effects on his legacy if he wins. Obviously, he would shoot way up on people's rankings on how great this guy is in the all-time great area. But how far up? Is he top 5 at this point? What do you guys think?
I think it's hard to – oh, sorry, CJ. I didn't realize you were going to go first.
I wasn't.
Oh, I saw you open your mouth up. I was like, I hope I'm not about to
No. You go first.
It's hard to say that he wouldn't be top 5 at that rate. And he would be up there, obviously, with Aikman, Terry Bradshaw, guys that aren't considered top 5. And we're seeing Mahomes be known as the best quarterback in the game. Now, if he wins, he's going to be a top 5 quarterback of all time at that point. And he'd be third in all-time playoff wins, and he'd have a better shot at reaching Brady's 7. Now, obviously, we can't put him in that conversation of greatest of all time because Brady's the one that's got 7 rings. And even if Mahomes gets to 7, then it's going to even be hard to even put him greatest of all time anyways, because Brady has those 2 games on him. So it's kind of hard to say if his legacy or if this is really the doorway for him to become the greatest of all time. But it certainly would be him being a top 5 quarterback of all time, especially the way that he was able to do it with not as much talent on this team.
Yeah.
So for me, I do believe if he does win his 3rd Super Bowl, not only will it put him arguably in the top 5, or at least it'll cement him in the top 10, but it will make him a fringe top 5 in my eyes. But not only will it do that, it will make the Chiefs a new dynasty. Because how many quarterbacks win 3 rings? I mean, hey, Peyton Manning, who right now is, in my opinion, the 3rd greatest quarterback of all time. He only has 2. Aaron Rodgers, who many believe is top 5, only has 1. And even stalwarts like Ben Roethlisberger have 2. Eli Manning, will not consider great. He only has 2. And there are some great ones like Warren Moon, Dan Marino. They never had any. So for Mahomes, when it just comes to rings, that's interesting. And people get blinded by the rings, and rightfully so, but it's stats. Right now, statistically, it's way too early. And I'm not saying he's not going to get there, but you have to remember when you have people like Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, and the GOAT himself, Tom Brady, statistically, that's going to be something. I mean, if he gets those stats, then we can talk, but it's just statistically, it's too early. Accolade wise, if he clinches his third Super Bowl, then yeah, I can definitely tell you he would be top 5 and starting a new dynasty. That's going to help him regardless.
Yeah.
And but when it comes to matching up him with Brady, because it's like the new LeBron Jordan now, Chris mentioned it, and I think he's correct. Just remember, Mahomes has only lost 3 times in the playoffs. 2 out of those 3 times have come at the hands of Tom Brady. We all remember, the 2020-2021 season, right? Where it was supposed to be the big passing of the torch, where Mahomes would beat Brady and assume the new mantle is GOAT, and Brady said, nah. He took that torch and proceeded to beat Patrick Mahomes over the head with it. And another thing with Mahomes that we have to keep in mind, and I know I'm sounding like an older football fan, but people put Brady through this litmus test, so I think it's only fair we do it to Mahomes. Mahomes will now play the majority of his career in the 17-game season. And my point is, we use the 17-game season to try to discredit TJ Watt. I think it was wrong to do, but a lot of people did. A lot of people use it to discredit Justin Jefferson and Tyreek Hill with their accomplishments. So I think it's only fair, if we must go down that road, which I don't suggest, that we hold Mahomes to that same standard. Because, 17. But then again, people say that about Brady. He's playing 16 games. A lot of people, he played like 14. Some played 12. It's like, But I would just say we need to move away from talks like that because the game evolves. There's different eras where it's great, but I would definitely say, just circling back here, if Mahomes does in fact get his 3rd ring, not only does it make the Chiefs a dynasty, it would put him maybe not top 5, but it would definitely cement him in the top 10.
Yeah.
Sorry,
out of all
fringe top 5.
Yeah, so out of all the quarterbacks who are all-time great in our league's history, some of the most notable ones with multiple rings, at least 3 or more: Troy Aikman, Tom Brady, Joe Montana, and Terry Bradshaw. And there might be one other that I'm missing. But there's Terry Bradshaw and Troy Aikman, who won those rings, but statistically, and if you also look at it in context, weren't all that great. I mean, they were great, but they weren't Tom Brady, Joe Montana level. What Patrick Mahomes is doing is Tom Brady, Joe Montana level. It's on that level. And if he wins this one, then we can actually start mentioning him in the same breath as those other 2. Now, between Brady and Montana, there's a massive gap, but you could at least start arguing Mahomes over Montana at this point, because he's also winning MVPs. He's been in the conference championship in as many years as he's been starting in the league, and he's won 3 championships with however long that he has left to win his 4th. I mean, that has to put you in that conversation with Joe Montana. As far as statistics go, I agree with CJ, not just because it's early, but because of how he started his career off. Let's not forget, the Chiefs, before Patrick Mahomes took over as the starting quarterback, they had Alex Smith, who is an okay starter. He's a guy who can make the playoffs every now and then. They were making the playoffs almost every year. I'm pretty sure the only time they missed since 2013 was 2014. But they made the playoffs almost every year with Alex Smith because they had a very good roster and a very good head coach in Andy Reid. But when you start off your career with Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, then of course you're going to have these inflated statistics, especially when you have a really good offensive line, a very good offensive-minded head coach, a great offensive-minded offensive coordinator in Eric Bieniemy. I mean, of course you're going to put up great statistics. Not to take away from Patrick Mahomes, but he had a pretty good situation to start off with. Now, it's starting to taper off a little bit, and he's still playing well, which is why we still have him in this all-time great category if he wins. But I don't think it's going to continue this way, where he's putting up 40 to 50 touchdown seasons. That's just not sustainable. It was never sustainable for Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Joe Montana, Aaron Rodgers. They all had down years because the roster, there's so many moving parts that it's just not in your control, right? So that's the reason I'm hesitant to use statistics as an argument. Not just because it's early, because he started off his career with one of the better rosters you will ever see. And Tom Brady didn't have that, at least on the offensive side. On defense, they had some good pieces. They had a great defensive-minded head coach, so they were a little more geared towards defense. And then once they started moving towards vertical offenses with Randy Moss, Wes Welker, you had Deion Branch a few years later on. You had Rob Gronkowski. Then you started seeing more offense from Brady. But with Patrick Mahomes, he started off the opposite. He started off with the more vertically structured offenses, the great weapons, the great offensive line. I mean, that's what he started off with. But so it's different in that way. And I think that's something that people don't understand is that, yeah, like you're starting off with these great statistics, but you don't that's, of course, it'd be a problem if you weren't putting up great statistics with these weapons. And he was, so we're not going to hold him against that. But you also can't ignore it. And I think it's going to start to taper off. Let me give you another angle to this. So we'll segue into if he loses this game. If they win, so Andy Reid's getting older, and rumors are starting to circulate that he's retiring. Travis Kelce, he's 34, going on 35, as a tight end. That's a position that doesn't have the best shelf life. And on top of that, you shipped out your all-pro wide receiver in Tyreek Hill. You replace him with Rashee Rice, who's okay. He's not a wide receiver one, at least not at this point. Maybe he develops into it.
But I was just about to say, maybe I think in the recent weeks, he has developed into a player that could potentially be a wide receiver one.
He could.
Especially in the playoffs.
All I'm saying is they don't have much to work with. And with that massive Patrick Mahomes deal, that cupboard could go bare real quick, and it wouldn't be in Patrick Mahomes' control that this happens. But that offense could go real cold for a few years. And there was with Tom Brady, he had this issue too. There was a 10-year gap between championship 3 and championship 4. We see a gap coming up soon. Now, we don't want to compare because it's two different situations, but they were winning on offensive firepower. Now that's starting to taper off. The defense is getting better. But is it going to be good enough for them to carry to some championships? I think that's something to worry about there, because if we're talking about his legacy as a whole, will he be able to win more championships like this? I don't know. All right. What do we think if he loses? If he loses the Super Bowl, that means you're 2-2 in Super Bowls. Yes, you made it to 6 straight, but keep in mind how I just mentioned. Andy Reid could be retiring in a couple years. If not this year, it will be coming soon because he's 65. Travis Kelce's getting older. He's going to be 35 next year. Tyreek Hill's out of town. We don't know what Rashee Rice is yet. And their offensive line is okay, but how long is that going to last? What do you guys think?
If he lose, I feel like it's going to depend on how he plays in this Super Bowl. That could, if they lose. But I don't know. Everyone knows that this really isn't that great of a team. But when you look at, in the sense of like Brady's first 3 Super Bowls and how, like you said, it wasn't the greatest offense in the world, and it was put on by great defense. And that's kind of what the Patriots had for those first 3 Super Bowls, was really good defense. And now here the Chiefs are with a good defense and not as good of an offense as they used to be. If Mahomes can't find a way to do that, then everyone's going to start comparing the two again. And that's going to be what degrades Mahomes' legacy at that rate, because Mahomes is now put in a spot or a similar spot to Brady, and he's not getting it done. I don't know. It's tough because if you weren't doing the Mahomes Brady comparison like everyone is doing, then you could just sweep it under the rug and say, you know what, this was down here for Mahomes. The offense wasn't really good. This is a great run that they had, but all great things come to an end. But because of the comparisons, it's not going to be met like that.
Yeah. CJ?
I don't think it's going to be the end of the world if he loses, because going to 4 Super Bowls and winning 2 would put you on the same Super Bowl record as Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning is a Hall of Famer, and eventually, as he progresses, he'll have his stats to fall on. But making these Super Bowls and then losing them, I know he's made more than the person I'm about to mention, but you don't want to peak too early. And this might be a bit of a hot take, but I think that's exactly what happened to Aaron Rodgers. Now, granted, Rodgers didn't make all the Super Bowls that Mahomes has, but early in his career, what was it, a second or third season, as a starter, he comes out, he makes one, upsets Pittsburgh, and, then he's racking up MVPs. But notice, he keeps reeling in accolades. He keeps stuffing the stat sheet, but the rings kept eluding him. He made it to 4 straight championship games and, got bounced out. And that's us. And a lot of it is because I think he peaked too early. And for Mahomes, you do not want to peak too early. And that's something that I also think falls on the front office. You can't let that happen, because you're right. Andy Reid is not getting any younger. Travis Kelce, granted, it's a miracle he's lasted as long as he did, because he's one of the softer tight ends in the league, because he's not a great route runner. He doesn't get physical. He doesn't block. He's more prone to throw out a sarcastic tweet than a punch, in a fight. So let's be honest with ourselves there. And you don't know what Rashee Rice is going to be. The defense is good, but I don't know if you know this, Chris Jones, your best defender, he's going to need a new contract soon, and I don't really believe Kansas City can afford it. So I guess that's it. So if you lose the Super Bowl, it's not going to be the end of the world, but you need just an insurance plan, basically. You know what I mean? You don't want him to peak too soon. And to be fair, you look at Brady's first Super Bowl he won. He wasn't the focal point. That defense, as you mentioned, was elite with 2 future Hall of Famers there. So basically, you have to start retooling the lineup, because we mentioned how some quarterbacks, and this is my final point, how some quarterbacks, suffer when they don't have weapons around them. If Mahomes loses the Super Bowl, it will show that not even he is immune to it. Maybe it's a sign of the times, maybe it's not, but it will be something to consider. That he would need to have some more weapons other than Rashee Rice and old man Travis Kelce.
I don't think I don't think it would be the end of the world for his legacy, but I definitely think it would hurt it a little bit. Yeah. Because at that point, he lost a couple Super Bowls. What's up?
Sorry, I don't mean to keep cutting in. My Wi-Fi keeps glitching out, so every time there's a pause, I keep trying to butt in. But
sorry.
What I was saying though was, it kind of goes back to what I was just saying though. Even with all the bad weapons, it could also depend on how he plays in general. If he has a bad game, then everyone's going to be really dogging on him. But if he has a really good game, then
they won't.
Blame.
No. Because when Mahomes put up that stinker against Tampa Bay, everybody was so quick to defend him that it's just not his fault, and the offense and the team around him just faltered. And I see no reason to believe that it will not be different this time.
What do you think of the offensive line, though?
I think their offensive line is pretty good, aside from left tackle.
No, I mean in that game.
In that game, not great.
Do you not remember Mahomes
was running
for his
life?
Yeah,
I know, okay, but is that really because the Tampa Bay offensive line was that bad, or are we just underselling the Tampa Bay defense? Because Tampa Bay defense,
No, we
I
definitely.
remember, was pretty good.
It wasn't top. It was top 10, but it wasn't like it wasn't the Chicago. It wasn't the 85 Bears, and it certainly wasn't the 15 Broncos.
Yeah, of course, it's a ridiculous comparison.
It's not, but it wasn't a great defense. It wasn't top 5 in the league during that year.
Okay, yeah, but it was still you said it yourself, it was still top 10. It still had Devin White, still had Levante David, still had Vita Vea, still had Shaq Barrett, and it still had Carlton Davis, Sean Murphy Bunting, Antoine Winfield, and Jordan Whitehead.
Right, a defense that ranked in the top third of the league. Is that one that should be violating offensive lines and having the best quarterback in the game running for its life? I think it was just a bad. My honest analysis is on this game was that it was just a bad game by the offensive line. I mean, it really was. I guess, like, if the player is running for his life, that's not on the offensive line. He's trying not to take a sack. How many did he take in that game?
He ended up taking like 3. 2, 3.
That's considering how bad that offensive line performance was. That's not that bad.
All right, yeah. So the offensive line made him throw 2 picks. The offensive line made him throw ill-advised balls into double coverage. The offensive line was responsible for Travis Kelce, disappearing.
Well, if you're rushed into making throws, then you have to do that. I mean, you have to. Half the stuff that he was doing was he was almost going to the ground. And on top of that, they were missing their left tackle and Jeff Fisher.
Eric Fisher.
Chiefs allowed 3 sacks.
Yeah, Eric Fisher. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I know. But I'm just saying, though, it's like Mahomes could have no touchdown passes, like 150 yards and 3 picks. And my point is, it doesn't matter how good he is because people still just say, no, it's not his fault.
I agree. You can give some blame. But at the same time, it is a team sport. I know I am in the front of the line. I am leading the charge, always saying it's a quarterback-driven game, but you also have to give a little bit to the rest of the roster. There's a reason why tackles are so highly paid. There's a reason why wide receivers are paid a lot, right? And there's a reason why pass rushers are paid a lot, because there's a lot more to the game than just the quarterback. There's coaching as well that's important.
I mean, I know, and it's not an issue with you or your stance. It's just an issue of, I think it comes down to the NFL media in general. Because if he wins, it'll be like, oh, there's nothing he can't do. This is him just willing this team. And then it'll just be like, no, sorry, no. If he loses, then I'll be like, no, it's his team's fault. Like, 2 things can't be true at once here.
Well, people do that for Brady, too. I mean,
yeah, I know. And
when Brady does more with less, then it's always that he's doing more with less. You'll hear it from the Patriots fans.
Oh, but I didn't
as soon as he loses, it's on the rest of the team, which is, I mean, it is fair if you say, because there wasn't high expectations for it to begin with. So it's all to gain and not much to lose if you're doing something with a less than satisfactory roster. You had Juju Smith-Schuster as your wide receiver 1 last year. If they lost that Super Bowl, I'd still be pretty impressed. Even if they just lost in the conference championship to the Bengals, I'd say, you know what? He was a league MVP. He made it to the conference championship with a less than satisfactory team. Obviously, the season's a letdown, but he did more than what we expected with it. All right. So I do want to give my take on this because I didn't get my turn yet.
Yeah, Mr.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, we were going back and forth on your take, which is okay.
I forgive you.
I don't think this hurts his legacy. Well, I think it does a little bit. But like I alluded to before, I think my biggest concern is the Chiefs' entire outlook looking forward. Travis Kelce, like I said, is getting older. Andy Reid is looking closer and closer to retirement. So with those things in mind, and they also lost, I mean, Eric Bieniemy is gone, although he is a free agent now. But this is like, if they lose this one, I think Patrick Mahomes is in that one era in his career where he's making Super Bowls left and right. He's Tom Brady in the early 2000s and the 2010s. right now. So once that is over, you're going to get to a point where you may we can't actually expect for Patrick Mahomes to be in every single Super Bowl. So the window that he has right now, he needs to maximize it. Maybe there will be a time later in his career, like Tom Brady in the 2010s, where he ends up picking it up again and they start winning Super Bowls again. But be happy with what you have right now, because you don't know what you have until it's gone. And Travis Kelce's getting older. His favorite toy, his safety blanket, is going to be retiring in a couple of years. Or if he doesn't, then he will not look like the elite tight end that he has been for the entirety of his career. Right? Jason Witten eventually tapered off. Rob Gronkowski eventually slowed down. Why would we look at it differently with Travis Kelce? Right? They all eventually slow down. Father time always wins. And Andy Reid, I don't think he's retiring this year, but I think there's some truth to his rumors that it could be out just around the corner. So yeah, if they win this game, it's a dynasty. And I think if he loses it, it's not the end of the world, because he still has the rest of his career to win more. But don't take this Super Bowl for granted. That's all I'm saying. Because you never know if this one could be your last. That's what I would say about this. Because this was like I said, he inherited a great system around him. A very good scenario with lots of good weapons and a great coach, a very good defense, good offensive line. It's not going to last forever, one way or another. It's not going to be this way his entire career. So don't take it for granted, I would say. All right. We're going to move on, and we're going to get to our team comparisons in this matchup. We're going to rank every position and compare head-to-head between the 49ers and the Chiefs. Which one has the better at each position? We're on the offensive side of the ball. So this is going to be a few of them are a little more on the one-sided side because the 49ers have a lot of firepower. But you'd be surprised at how many the Chiefs actually have an advantage at. That's next. This is the Fumblerooski podcast.
Here's Edelman broken up, and the pass is no sign yet. Edelman comes down with a football. They're saying it's a catch. This is caught. Diggs! Sideline! Touchdown! Unbelievable! Swings it way down the field to Watkins. Sammy Watkins for the touchdown!
Welcome back to the Fumblerooski podcast by Power 88 and Secret Weapon Consulting. I'm Adam Wright with Chris Costich and CJ Medeiros. We have reached our team comparisons between both teams in the Super Bowl 58 matchup. We're going to hit the ground running with team comparisons with the quarterback position. This is an easy one. I think we all know who has the advantage here, unless Brock Purdy ends up going on a run after this Super Bowl and he turns into the actual next Tom Brady. But for now, Patrick Mahomes, it's not close. And right now he is chasing some of the all-time, like we said last segment, he is chasing some of the all-time greats with this Super Bowl if he wins. Offensive line. This is an interesting one. So because the 49ers have the best position player. The 49ers have the best player on this offensive line between both teams. So I think they have the advantage in the tackle position. But on the interior, it's a little bit closer than you might think. And I know CJ alluded to this last episode, but you want to elaborate?
Yeah, sure. So while we all agree that Mahomes is much better than Brock Purdy for quarterback, we do have to look at the people that they are surrounded by. Now, Brock Purdy is the best left tackle in the game, Trent Williams. There's no denying that. But the rest of the O-line, I won't lie to you. I'm not a fan. But then there's the Chiefs. The Chiefs probably have the best interior three in the NFL. Actually, no. Because they're maybe not. I'm kind of on the fence right now. My position is moderated because for those who don't know, today it has been confirmed that it is and I quote, long shot that Pro Bowl guard Joe Thuney actually plays. So that's going to be an issue and a half. However, without him, they still have Creed Humphrey, and they still have Trey Smith, and they still have Donovan Smith. And that's a pretty good from the center to the right sides. That's good. However, who's going to be your left guard? Not Thuney. But which brings me to left tackle, where they have Mr. False Start himself, Jawan Taylor, the most penalized player in the league.
Which they won't call them, by the way.
Oh, no. They won't call him. They're going to get Taylor Swift for Super Bowl. This is just how the world works these days. But that's neither here nor there. So, Adam, without Joe Thuney and with like the gravity that surrounds the name Trent Williams, I don't know. For me, it's kind of a draw. But when you consider how officially now, Jawan Taylor by himself, I can forgive. I can. But now without Thuney, the left side of that line is a black hole. Like, it may as well not exist. And when we take this into consideration, now I have to lean San Fran. Because, like I said, Trent Williams is like a one-man wrecking crew by himself. And without that, and without a piece of their O-line, and when you consider the fact that Jawan Taylor is a negative, I actually have to go San Fran. I would tilt Kansas City if Thuney was healthy, but he is not.
Yeah, and looking at that pass rush for San Francisco, that is going to be a nightmare.
You know it.
That is going to be a huge problem. Nick Bosa against that Chiefs. Oof. This is why I think the tackle position is the most important position in this matchup, because Nick Bosa against those tackles, and then Chris Jones against that offensive line for the 49ers, I just don't see it. All right. Chris, did you have anything to add?
Not really. I mean, like CJ said, for me, I mean, I would have gone 49ers regardless if Joe Thuney was out or not. But with Joe Thuney being out, it's definitely by unanimous decision. It's 49ers at that point. You got Chris Jones on the D line. That's going to cause some havoc on the interior for the Chiefs O line, Niners O line. But when you got both Chase Young and Nick Bosa coming in on both ends, and you don't have a great left tackle as it is, you can only double team one of them. You got to pick and choose at that point.
Yeah. All right. Wide receiver. So this is another one that's pretty much, we all know which side this is going to lean. We've got on the Niners side, Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk. What more do I have to say? I don't even have to name their secondary options there. But I do need to give an honorable mention to Rashee Rice. I think we've been very unfair to Rashee Rice. Everyone has this year. When everyone mentions the Chiefs wide receiving core, it's usually the butt of all jokes. It's always the punch line. And Rashee Rice has actually been okay. He's had a good rookie year. I don't know how good he will be. Maybe he develops into a wide receiver 1. Maybe he's just a 2. I mean, we had some good excitement for Juju Smith-Schuster when he first entered the league. And then when Antonio Brown left, it all went down the crapshoot. Because it turns out when you have an elite pass catcher lined up opposite you, Jesus Christ, I made a new word. Lined up opposite you, that's going to take some defensive attention away from you, and that is going to cause for you to be open a lot more often. That happened to Juju once Antonio Brown left. When Travis Kelce ages and defenses stop respecting him, how is that going to affect Rashee Rice? It's just a question that I have there. CJ, you're muted.
Well, don't mute me, and that won't happen. However, I will concede.
Your mic makes a
That,
weird noise. That's why.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Take a salt tablet. That'll make it better. Anyway, so I will concede though that for the 49ers, I guess you could argue that Kadarius Toney's a weapon for them, considering the fact he's that much of a hindrance to the Chiefs. And I'm right.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Kadarius Toney, they may not even use him. I mean, if what Tony is saying on his live stream is correct, they're not going to use him.
Nor should they.
I don't. Nor should they. But it looks bad there. All right. Running back. This one, another one where I think we all know who has the advantage here. Christian McCaffrey is a legitimate contender for Offensive Player of the Year. He might win that award. But let's not disrespect Isaiah Pacheco. Because that kid, I love the memes that come out from him. Someone said he runs like he bites people. Or that he runs like he walks up the stairs on all fours.
Yes. Someone said he runs like a zombie. He runs like he hates the ground. He's a character.
I mean, that's how you're supposed to run the damn ball, though. He runs with high knees. That's what they teach you from flag football on. That's how you run the damn ball. I love it. He's my favorite running back right now because of the way he runs and how hard he runs. He runs like his life depends on it.
Right. And Isaiah Pacheco, like Christian McCaffrey has the advantage here. But Isaiah Pacheco is a pretty good back. And didn't he start off, correct me if I'm wrong, but did he start off in the league as a wide receiver and then was kind of morphed into a running back?
I'm not sure. I just know that he was behind Edwards-Helaire to start the season last year and then stole the starting spot.
Yeah. Yes. And while we're on the subject of running backs, I feel like the Niners guy, Mitchell, deserves a little bit of respect too. Yeah, obviously Pacheco's great, but you have behind Christian McCaffrey, you have bargain bin Christian McCaffrey as well, but they literally just, don't use him because you have Christian McCaffrey. But he's good.
He was also on IR for half the season as well.
Yep, but he's back now.
Yeah.
And we'll see.
Yeah. So so this year, I mean, because he's been hurt for a while, the stats don't mean too much, but 281 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did average 3.7 yards a carry. So under 4, I guess you have to kind of, when a player's coming off IR, you kind of have to give it the eye test rather than look at the statistics, because there's a lot of factors that play into it. They're working their way back into things. He might be a lot better than what he looked like when he first came off IR. But tight end, we saved the best one for last. This is an ongoing debate. Travis Kelce has the longevity and he has the statistics. But when you look at the eye test, George Kittle, he is a much more physical tight end. That's number 1. Number 2, he actually blocks. Travis Kelce. So here is why I'm very hesitant to consider Travis Kelce the greatest tight end of all time. Statistically, he's there. But as an all-around tight end, if we were to call Travis Kelce the greatest tight end of all time, why can't we just move Devontae Adams to tight end and just call him the greatest of all time? He's a wide receiver who's playing the tight end position. They don't have him blocking. Now, he plays the wide receiver position very well when he's running his routes, but he doesn't block. And that's something that's important to being a tight end. He has this career longevity because he doesn't block. He doesn't play that physical of ball. And that's something that's important. And it's a reason why tight ends typically do not age that well. It's the reason why Rob Gronkowski was injured half the time. It's the reason why George Kittle is injured all the time. It's the reason why Darren Waller snapped like a twig after a few years. The tight end position is a very expendable position. It doesn't last very long. And the reason why Travis Kelce has lasted as long as he has is because he's used primarily as a wide receiver. He's labeled as a tight end, but let's not kid ourselves. He's a pass catcher playing the tight end position. So that's something that I always consider when I am looking at Travis Kelce as one of the greatest of all time. He certainly is, but you can't ignore the fact that they don't have him blocking like ever. But George Kittle does. And George Kittle he actually looks like a tight end out there. He plays a very physical game. He's very hard to bring down. It kind of reminds me of Rob Gronkowski, the way he runs the ball once he catches it. It's unbelievable. What do you guys think?
Chris, you go.
Yeah, it's, when you watch the Chiefs games, who do you see out there when they run the ball? It's Noah Gray and Blake Bell. You will not know who the hell Noah Gray and Blake Bell were. Noah Gray, shout out Lemster legend, but you want to know who those two guys were if Travis Kelce played every single down and he was in there for all the run plays. So there's that. I mean, I'm still going to probably give the edge to Kelce because, yeah, George Kittle brings more to the table in terms of run blocking and whatnot. But when it comes down to how much one guy is going to be relied on, Travis Kelce is going to be relied on a lot in this game. So part of me is going to go to Travis Kelce because, yeah, George Kittle is, like I said, great run blocker, great pass catcher. But when you look at the rest of the 49ers roster, he isn't the number one target. Travis Kelce on the Chiefs, they're going to be looking to go to him all the time. George Kittle, they don't need to go to him all the time. So Travis Kelce is just going to be relied on so much that he's definitely going to be more of a factor than, say, George Kittle in that sense.
Yeah, no, I hear you. However,
I'm not trying to say one's better than the other. I'm just saying in the sense of how both teams stack up, one is going to have to be relied on more than the other.
No, you're right. But see, here's the thing. Travis Kelce, as you know, is a good crutch for Mahomes. There's no denying that. However, Mahomes is force-feeding him. It's artificially inflating his numbers. Meanwhile, now, by the way, he has 93 catches. He has 984 yards and 5 touchdowns. That's great. It's the number one option. But George Kittle is option 1, usually option 2, sometimes option 3, and he only has 65 catches because he's not getting force-fed. However, he cracked over 1,000 yards and he has one more touchdown than Kelce. So the fact that he's putting up arguably better numbers, he's doing more with less while not being the number one option, I think this season makes him better. All time, no debate, obviously Kelce. But just this season, statistically, what they're asked to do and the fact that he's not soft and the fact that he blocks, his route running is better, his football IQ is better, his hands are better, you have to tilt towards Kittle.
And Travis Kelce certainly isn't. He's not soft either. It's just that they don't use him like a tight end. They don't. He's used as a wide receiver.
That was the next point I was going to say, too. When you look at split stats between these two, George Kittle is way more consistent with what Travis Kelce was this season.
But that's the issue, is that because George Kittle is an actual tight end, because he actually plays the game like a tight end, he gets injured more.
Exactly.
And that's why Travis Kelce has the greater longevity. It's still important that he was able to play this long, but you have to understand when you're comparing players as a tight end, you have to look at Travis Kelce's blocking ability. Now, they don't use him to block very often, so you can't necessarily hold it against him, but you can't use it as a plus either.
And
when you use him only as a... What's that?
And when they do, I've seen him get blown by. And it's not even that he can't block, by the way. It's that he refuses to. He takes plays off. Kittle doesn't.
Right. So one is more physical than the other. And Travis Kelce is still important to this Chiefs team. There's no denying that. Without Travis Kelce, they don't reach the Super Bowl. And they may not even make the conference championship without Travis Kelce. But if we're, like I said, if we're comparing tight ends, not pass catchers, not just statistics, Travis Kelce blows them out of the water. Who's the better tight end? It's George Kittle who's the better tight end. Travis Kelce's the more impactful player. and he's the better statistical pass catcher. He's the better overall pass catcher. George Kittle is the better tight end. That's what we're saying.
Yep.
All right. That's about all the scheduled content for today. What do you guys think? Anything else to talk about?
I don't know. We could talk about the Pro Bowl.
Oh, we could talk about how useless it is.
Yeah, we could talk about it, and we could also talk about watching paint dry.
No, one of my favorite skill competitions from this past weekend was Justin Tucker and what's his face from the Cowboys. Can't think of his name.
Brandon Aubrey.
Yeah.
Thank you. Tucker and Brandon Aubrey having that tic-tac-toe kicking competition.
I forgot about that. I'm so glad they brought that back.
It's so ridiculous seeing how accurate these guys are in playing tic-tac-toe on field goals.
They call it tic-tac-toe, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
I really wish Justin Tucker got the better of that matchup. The fact that he got bullied in that during the preseason of that game in the conference championship, and then
yeah,
it's ridiculous.
But it's weird. The flag football game, you'd think it'd be worse, but it's almost like the players were trying more than they were with the actual pads on. Like they're actually trying out there. Everyone actually gives a damn. Everyone's out there arguing with the referees and whatnot. CJ Stroud's making plays like he would in an actual game.
Are we hyping up the Are we hyping up the Pro Bowl now?
I'm not trying to hype up the Pro Bowl, but in the sense of how competitive it actually was and how much the players actually give a damn about the flag football game compared to the actual game in years past.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
because they don't
have to go full force and they won't get hurt.
All right. We do have to end the show tonight, but listen, there's a lot of ways they can make the Pro Bowl very much more entertaining, but they just refuse to do it. They want it to be like the All-Star game in the MLB and the NBA where they have a game. They should make it some sort of an Olympics and have a draft for it. That would be fun.
Yeah.
All right. That'll do it for us tonight. Thank you for listening to us. We have new episodes out on Tuesdays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on Fridays. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have all our episodes available on Spotify, Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and so much more. Also, be sure to follow our Instagram at Fumblerooski_podcast and our TikTok at Fumblerooski Pod to keep up with our podcast and latest coverage on the NFL. Otherwise, we'll see you next week. Over and out.